The arrogance of Eternity Commander Thexfall of the Calrith hegemony had patrolled the Outer Rim for 3 centuries, and in all that time, nothing had surprised him. His cruiser, the Eternal Dominion, glided through the void like a predator that had forgotten what fear tasted like. Behind him, 17 warships maintained perfect formation, a steel fist wrapped around the galaxy's throat. "Commander, we're approaching Sector 771, his sensor officer chirped, her crystalline voice echoing through the bridge. The Lixian species had been bred for perfect pitch and absolute obedience. The Forbidden Zone. Thexfall's 4 eyes narrowed. The Forbidden Zone. For 50,000 years, that patch of space had been marked on every hegemony star chart with a simple designation: empty, quarantined, do not approach. No one remembered why anymore. The original records had been lost to time, buried under millennia of bureaucratic sediment. "Maintain course," Thexfall ordered, his clawed hand drumming against the command throne. "The Council wants a full survey. They think the old warnings are superstition." The fleet pierced the invisible barrier that had stood unchallenged since before recorded history. Space looked the same here, the same cold stars, the same emptiness. Thexfall felt a twinge of disappointment. He'd hoped for something interesting. Then the sensors screamed. "Contact!" The Lixian officer shrieked, her perfect pitch cracking into discord. "Unknown vessel, bearing 270 Mark 15. It's inside our formation." Impossible. Nothing could penetrate a hegemony patrol grid undetected. Thexfall's eyes fixed on the main display, and his blood ran cold. The ship was small barely, a quarter the size of his cruiser, but it moved like nothing he'd ever seen. Not drifting, not flying, existing in one location and then another, as if space itself bent around its will. Its hull bore no markings he recognized, constructed from materials his sensors couldn't identify. "Open a channel," Thexfall commanded, forcing authority into his voice. "Unknown vessel, you have violated hegemony space. Power down your systems and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in your immediate destruction." Static crackled. Then a voice clear, unafraid, speaking perfect hegemonic standard. "This is Captain Sarah Chun of the Earth vessel Prometheus. We don't recognize your authority. We're passing through. Don't try to stop us, Earth." Thexfall searched his memory. No species in the hegemony database bore that designation. "You dare refuse a hegemony directive? We are the masters of 10,000 worlds. You are nothing. One more chance. Surrender or die." The human's response chilled him more than any threat could have. She laughed. 1.2, the demonstration. "All ships, weapons free." Thexfall roared. "Teach these primitives the cost of arrogance." 17 hegemony warships opened fire simultaneously. Plasma lances that could slag continents converged on the small human vessel. Mass drivers launched projectiles at relativistic speeds. Quantum disruptors tore at the fabric of reality itself. The combined firepower could have shattered a moon. The Prometheus didn't dodge. It didn't need to. A field of shimmering light materialized around the human ship, but it wasn't like any shield technology Thexfall had seen. It changed, adapted. When the plasma struck, the shield became reflective. When the kinetic rounds hit, it became elastic, absorbing and redirecting momentum. When the quantum disruptors engaged, the shield shifted frequency, dancing between dimensions. In 3 seconds. The most devastating barrage in hegemony history dissipated like rain on stone. "Impossible," Thexfall whispered. "Commander!" His weapons officer gasped. "The human ship, it's charging weapons." Evasive maneuvers. All ships, scatter pattern, too late. The Prometheus fired once. A single lance of impossible light, not red, not blue, But a color Thexfall's eyes couldn't properly process split into 17 perfect beams. Each one struck a hegemony warship with surgical precision. Not at the hulls, not at the weapons. At the power cores. Every ship in Thexfall's fleet went dark. Life support remained. Structural integrity held. But engines, weapons, shields all dead. Disabled but not destroyed. Humiliated but left alive. The Prometheus began moving again, gliding past the paralyzed fleet like a shark past minnows. Wait! Thexfall transmitted, his pride shattered. Who are you? What are you? Captain Shun's voice returned, softer now, but carrying the weight of ages. We're what happens when you forget someone. We're what grows in the dark. Tell your council. Humanity remembers what they tried to make the galaxy forget. The Prometheus accelerated to impossible speeds and vanished, leaving 17 disabled warships and 1 terrified. Commander floating in the void. 1.3. The Council's blindness. Grand Council Chamber on Hegemon Prime had witnessed 50,000 years of absolute rule. Its walls were carved from crystallized time itself, showing glimpses of past glories and conquered worlds. 12 species sat in judgment over the galaxy, each one perfected through genetic manipulation, their aggression suppressed, their creativity channeled into service. Commander Thexfall stood in the center of the chamber, feeling very small. You expect us to believe, Supreme Counselor Vex then rumbled, his massive form blocking out the light, that a single unknown vessel disabled your entire patrol fleet without sustaining damage? I have the sensor logs. Sensor logs can be manipulated. Council member Raisha interrupted, her serpentine body coiling with disdain. Perhaps you wish to hide incompetence behind fantasy? Thexfall's jaws dug into his palms. With respect, counselors, I know what I saw. This humanity possesses technology beyond our understanding. They called themselves from Earth, a designation not in any hegemony database. Of course it's not in the database, Vex then snorted. It doesn't exist. The outer rim is empty. Always has been. Asterisk, not always, a quiet voice interjected. All eyes turned to the chamber's shadows, where Archivist Velther emerged. The elderly Keshrin scholar moved slowly, his 6 legs clicking against the crystalline floor. He carried a data crystal that pulsed with faint, ancient light. You dare interrupt the council? Raisha hissed. I dare because I've found something in the Forbidden's archives, Velther replied, his voice steady. Records from before the Great Consolidation. Sealed files marked for destruction, but never quite deleted. He placed the crystal into the chamber's reader. Holographic text materialized, old, corrupted, but readable. A single name appeared, the Earth Protocol. 50,000 years ago, Velther continued, a scientist named Merquan the Architect proposed hiding an entire world. A planet called Earth. The Council voted to proceed, then erased all records of it. Ridiculous, Vex then scoffed. Why would we hide a world? The file is corrupted, but fragments remain. Earth's dominant species showed troubling traits. Excessive adaptability. Resistance to genetic optimization. Unpredictable creativity. The Council feared they couldn't be controlled. So Merquin offered a solution. Hide them until they died out naturally. Silence filled the chamber. Apparently, Thexfall said quietly, they didn't die out. It's ancient propaganda, Raisha insisted. Legends to frighten children. Even if this Earth existed, what could they have become in isolation? Without hegemony guidance, species stagnate. They war among themselves. They destroy their own worlds. Or, Velther said softly, they evolve. The Council dismissed them both. Thexfall was demoted. Velther's archive access was revoked. The matter was declared closed, a sensor malfunction. Nothing more. But in the depths of space, on a slave mining colony called Kessir 9. Something impossible was about to happen. Asterisk 1.4 Liberation Kessir 9 had no hope. It had no sky, just the endless rock ceiling of the asteroid mine. The Drell species had toiled here for 300 generations, their bodies modified to withstand toxic atmosphere, their minds altered to accept servitude. They lived. They worked. They died. The cycle never changed. Until the broadcast dot, it came through every speaker, every communicator, every piece of hegemony technology simultaneously. A human voice, speaking words the Drell had forgotten their ancestors once knew. People of Kessir 9, you are slaves, but you don't have to be. In the command center, Overseer Craxel frantically tried to shut down the transmission. Impossible. This is a closed system. How? 3 ships materialized above the asteroid. Smaller than hegemony cruisers, but radiating power that made the very rock tremble. They bore a symbol the Drell had never seen. A blue and green sphere wrapped in stars. Asterisk, the Prometheus led them. Hegemony forces, Captain Sean's voice rang out. You have 1 minute to evacuate. Take your ships and go. The Drell are no longer your property. Craxel sneered and opened fire. The garrison's defense platforms unleashed everything they had. The human ships didn't fire back, not immediately. They moved like dancers, weaving through the barrage as if the trajectories were visible to them. When they finally returned fire, it was with the same surgical precision Exval had witnessed. Every defense platform disabled. Every garrison ship's engines destroyed. Not a single Drell caught in the crossfire. The humans landed. They opened their ships. And they did something the hegemony never had. They asked the Drell what they wanted. Captain Shun stood in the central plaza, surrounded by thousands of confused, frightened Drell. She held no weapon. She wore no armor. Just a simple uniform bearing that blue-green sphere. Asterisk. We won't force you to fight, she said. We won't demand loyalty. But we'll give you weapons, training, and knowledge. What you do with freedom is your choice. An old Drell miner, his body bent from centuries of labor, stepped forward. Why? He croaked. Why risk yourselves for us? Sarah Chun smiled, and in that smile was something the galaxy had forgotten. Not pity. Not superiority. Kinship. Because 50,000 years ago, someone tried to erase us too. We survived by remembering what the hegemony made you forget, that no one has the right to own another soul. We're not here to save you. We're here to remind you that you can save yourselves. She placed a weapon in his hand, strange, adaptive technology that bonded to his genetic signature. Humanity kneels to no one, she said. And neither should you? The old Drell looked at the weapon, then at his people, then at the stars visible for the first time through the damaged mine-sealing dot, and he raised the weapon high. Within a cycle, 17 more colonies erupted in rebellion. The hegemony's iron grip began to rust. And in the Grand Council chamber, the 12 species who had ruled for 50 millennia realized something terrifying. They had forgotten how to fight an enemy who refused to stay forgotten. Asterisk. The Wildfire Supreme Counselor Vex then stared at the holographic map of the galaxy, watching red indicators bloom like a disease. Each one represented a world in rebellion. Each one bore the same signature, human intervention. 17 colonies in one cycle, he muttered, his massive frame trembling with barely contained rage. How is this possible? Council member Raisha coiled tighter, her serpentine eyes reflecting the chaos on the map. They're not just attacking Supreme Counselor. They're organizing. The Drell from Kessir 9 freed the Voss on Tertian 7. The Voss armed the Keldry. The Keldry are now moving on the processing centers. It's cascading. Where are the humans? Vex then demanded, Everywhere and nowhere, Intelligence Director Kermix reported, his voice tight with frustration. We track them to one system, and by the time our fleets arrive, they are gone. They leave behind weapons, training protocols, and that ... Message. The now infamous broadcast played again on the chamber speakers. Captain Shun's voice. Calm and inexorable. Humanity kneels to no one. Tell your masters, the age of chains is ending. Vexthan's fist slammed down, cracking the crystalline table. They have dozens of ships at most. We have thousands. How do they move so quickly? Archivist Velther, who had been summoned despite his previous dismissal, stepped forward cautiously. Supreme Counselor, I've continued researching the Earth Protocol. The fragments suggest that Merkuan didn't just hide Earth, he gave them something. A gift, or perhaps a curse. Speak plainly, scholar. Time, Velther said simply. 50,000 years of isolation. While we enforce genetic stagnation across the galaxy, breeding out aggression and creativity for stability, Earth had no such intervention. They evolved naturally, chaotically. They fought wars. They made mistakes. They adapted. You're saying they're better than us because they're primitive? Raisha hissed. I'm saying they're better than us because they had to be. Our species haven't faced real adversity in millennia. We've forgotten how to innovate under pressure. They never stopped. Commander Thexfall, restored to the chamber as the only officer who'd encountered the humans and survived, added grimly, their ships adapt in real time. Their shields learn from every attack. It's not just technology, it's philosophy. They expect the universe to challenge them, so they built themselves to answer any challenge. Vexthan's 4 eyes narrowed. Then we'll give them a challenge they can't adapt to. Assemble the Grand Armada. Call in every fleet from every sector. If the humans want war, we'll drown them in firepower until their precious adaptability breaks. And the rebellions? Kermix asked. Let them burn for now. Once we've crushed humanity, the slaves will remember their place. But as the Council dispersed to mobilize the greatest military force the galaxy had ever seen, none of them noticed Velther quietly copying files from the Forbidden's archives. None of them saw the doubt flickering in Nexval's eyes. And none of them suspected that the hegemony's greatest weakness wasn't military. It was that they'd spent 50,000 years forgetting how to question their own supremacy. 2.2. The trap that failed Supreme Admiral Caxter commanded the pride of the hegemony. 1,200 warships arranged in perfect tactical formation around the Zephyr Nebula. Intelligence had confirmed this was humanity's staging ground. The nebula's exotic particles would mask their approach until it was too late. All ships report ready, Admiral, his tactical officer reported. The moment the humans emerge, we'll have them in a perfect crossfire. There's no escape. Caxter studied the battle display with satisfaction. He'd spent 2 centuries perfecting the art of orbital supremacy. Humanity's tricks wouldn't save them from simple, overwhelming mathematics. How many human vessels do our projections suggest? Based on the 17 liberation strikes, we estimate 5 to 8 ships, Admiral. Possibly 10 at maximum capacity. And we brought 1,200. Caxter allowed himself a rare smile. Some might call it overkill. I call it certainty. The trap was sprung when sensors detected spatial distortions in the nebula. The humans were coming. All weapons, stand by, Caxter ordered. Let them fully emerge before we fire. I want them to see what they're facing before they die. The first human ship broke through the nebula's veil. The Prometheus, as expected. Then a second. A third. Caxter's smile widened. Then a 10th ship appeared. A 20th. A 50th. Admiral, his tactical officer whispered, voice cracking. Sensors are counting. They're counting over 300 human vessels. And more are still emerging. The smile died on Caxter's face. The human fleet wasn't just larger than expected. It was different. The ships varied wildly in size and configuration. Some looked like traditional warships. Others resembled cargo haulers modified for combat. A few bore the characteristics of hegemony designs, as if the humans had captured and reverse-engineered them in mere weeks. Captain Chan's voice filled every hegemony ship simultaneously, another impossible feat. Admiral Caxter of the hegemony, you came here to destroy us. You thought we were desperate refugees with a handful of ships. Her tone carried a weight that made even Caxter's veteran crew shift uncomfortably. You forgot something important. Earth wasn't just one ship hiding in the dark. It was an entire world, a population of 9 billion. And we've spent 50,000 years doing what we do best, building, breeding, and preparing for the day we'd return. On the display, the human fleet continued to grow. 400 ships. 500. They kept coming. You tried to erase us from history, Chan continued. You thought isolation would kill us. Instead, it gave us time. Time to advance. Time to multiply. Time to remember what you made the galaxy forget, that freedom is worth fighting for. Caxthur's claws dug into his command throne. The tactical advantage had evaporated. His 1,200 ships suddenly seemed inadequate against a force that now numbered over 600 and was still increasing. Admiral, his weapons officer asked shakily, do we engage? Caxthur stared at the display, watching human ships maneuver with that same impossible grace Vixval had described. Each vessel moved independently, yet in perfect coordination. No rigid formations, no predictable patterns. Chaos that somehow achieved perfect efficiency. No, he said quietly. We retreat. Full withdrawal, now. But Admiral, the Council, will have to accept that we found something we weren't prepared for. Caxthur felt ancient certainty crumbling. Send this message to Hegemon Prime. Humanity isn't an anomaly. They're an invasion force. And we just realized we've been fighting the scouting party. As the hegemony fleet began its humiliating withdrawal, one of the human ships broke formation and approached Caxthur's flagship. Not threatening, almost ... curious. A transmission came through. Admiral, this is Commander James Torres of the Defiant. Captain Chun wanted me to give you something. What? Caxthur growled. A choice. You can return to your council and tell them to mobilize every ship they have. We'll fight that battle, and many will die on both sides. Or, Torres paused significantly. You can ask yourself why you're fighting. What are you defending? Who benefits from this war? We maintain order. Caxthur snapped. Without the hegemony, the galaxy would descend into chaos. Maybe, Torres acknowledged. Or maybe you maintain stagnation. Either way, think about it, Admiral. Because the next time we meet, we won't be alone. Every species you've enslaved will be standing with us. The human ships vanished into the nebula, leaving Caxthur and his armada intact but shaken. As they began the long journey back to Hegemon Prime, the Admiral found himself doing something he hadn't done in 2 centuries. He questioned his orders. 2.3, the Architect's truth, while the Grand Council raged over Caxthur's failure. Archivist Velther descended deeper into the Forbidden's archives than any scholar had ventured in 10,000 years. The data crystal he'd shown the Council was merely a fragment. The complete files, he'd discovered, were hidden behind encryption so ancient that modern systems couldn't recognize it as security at all. But Velther was patient and desperate. The galaxy was tearing itself apart. 29 colonies now burned with rebellion. 3 hegemony fleets had retreated or been disabled. And humanity kept broadcasting that same message. The age of chains is ending. Velther needed to understand why Earth had been hidden. What had the Council feared so deeply? The final encryption broke at the 13th hour of his 20th consecutive day in the archives. Holographic text materialized, not fragments this time, but complete records dating back 50,000 years. The Earth Protocol. Final report. Submitted by Merquan the Architect Council classification. Erase upon reading Velther's 6 legs trembled as he read. The Council has approved my proposal to remove Earth from the galactic community. They believe isolation will cause human civilization to collapse, rendering them harmless. I have not corrected this assumption. The truth, I am hiding Earth not to destroy humanity, but to save them. For 3,000 years, I have watched the hegemony perfect its control. We breed out aggression, creativity, and independent thought from every species we encounter. We call it optimization. We call it peace. But I have studied the ancient texts before the Great Consolidation, when our ancestors still remembered what it meant to strive. We have made the galaxy docile, safe, stagnant. Humanity refuses optimization. Their DNA resists modification. Their psychology rejects authoritarian control. They are chaos incarnate, violent, unpredictable, brilliant, and dangerous. The Council wants them eliminated because they cannot be controlled. But I see something else. Potential. If humanity is given time, millennia, perhaps to evolve without our interference, they might become what we once were, what we forgot to be: adaptive, resilient, free. I am gambling the future on a single possibility, that when the hegemony finally calcifies into irrelevance, when our perfect order becomes a perfect prison, humanity will return, and they will remind the galaxy what we sacrificed for: security. They will break our chains. This is my gift to the future. This is my betrayal of everything the hegemony represents. I do not know if humans will be saviors or conquerors when they return. I only know that stagnation is its own form of death. Let them come back when we have forgotten how to fight. Let them show us what we've lost. Merquin the Architect. Year 1 of the hidden egg. Valthar stared at the final words, his mind reeling. All this time, the Council thought they'd destroyed a threat. In reality, Merquan had planted a time bomb, a species of pure adaptive chaos, left to grow in the dark until the moment the galaxy needed them most, or feared them most. The distinction, Velther realized with crystalline clarity, might not matter anymore. By the void, he whispered. He didn't hide them from us. He hid us from them. He gave them time to surpass us. 2.4. The final weapon. The Grand Council's emergency session erupted in chaos. 47 colonies in rebellion. Raisha shrieked. Our labor infrastructure is collapsing. Without the slave worlds, our economy? Forget the economy. Vex then roared. We're facing an existential threat. Humanity has 5,000 ships now, and the number grows daily. They're not just building, they're recruiting. Every freed species joins their cause. Council member Drexel, eldest of the 12, raised a withered hand. Silence fell. He rarely spoke, but when he did, even Vexthan listened. There is one option remaining, Drexel rasped. The void engine. Horrified gasps rippled through the chamber. You can't be serious, Risha breathed. That weapon was sealed after the Purge Wars. It's unstable, uncontrollable. It ends worlds, Drexel interrupted. Which is precisely what we need. We activate it at Hegemon Prime, draw humanity's fleet here, and then unleash it. The resulting spatial collapse will consume everything within 10 light years. Humanity, the rebellions, anyone who opposes us. And us, Vexthan said slowly. We'd be destroyed as well. Perhaps. Or perhaps we evacuate the Council to the outer reaches beforehand. Either way, the threat is neutralized. The galaxy returns to order. Velther burst into the chamber, protocol forgotten. Council, I've found Merquen's complete files. You need to understand humanity wasn't hidden as punishment. He was protecting them, cultivating them, preparing them to challenge us when our stagnation became, remove him. Vex then ordered coldly. Guards dragged the archivist away, but his words echoed. Challenge us? Stagnation. Commander Vexful, standing watch at the chamber's edge, felt something crack inside his carefully conditioned loyalty. Velther wasn't wrong. In 3 centuries of service, Vexfall had watched the hegemony grow more rigid, more afraid, more dead. They hadn't innovated in millennia. They'd simply enforced and repeated. Vote, Drexel commanded. Activate the void engine, yes or no. 10 voices voted yes. Only Risha and 1 other abstained. It's decided, Vex then declared. Send the broadcast. Tell humanity that if they want to face us, come to Hegemon Prime. Tell the rebellious worlds that this is their last chance to submit. In 10 cycles, we activate the void engine. Everything ends defiance, chaos, and humanity's dream of freedom. The message went out across the galaxy. And humanity answered. 2.5. The Breaking Dawn Captain Sarah Chon stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, watching the tactical display as ships assembled. Not just human vessels, though 5,000 of those had gathered, but hundreds more bearing the marks of freed species. Drell miners flew refitted cargo ships. Voss engineers piloted gunships they built from scavenged parts. Keldry warriors manned frigates captured from hegemony. GARRISONS. An entire galaxy's worth of rage, hope, and desperation converged on a single point, Hegemon Prime. Captain, her first officer reported, we're receiving a transmission. It's from inside the hegemony fleet. Chun raised an eyebrow. Put it through. Commander Vexfall appeared on screen, his 4 eyes heavy with exhaustion. Behind him, Shun could see other hegemony officers, dozens of them. Captain Shun, my name is Vexfall. I was the first to encounter you, back at the Forbidden Zone. I'm transmitting from the cruiser Eternal Dominion. I remember, Shun said carefully. You're the one we didn't kill. Because you chose mercy, Vexfall replied. A concept the hegemony has forgotten. Captain, I've spent 3 centuries serving an empire I thought brought order to chaos. But I've been watching what you've done, how you free worlds without enslaving them to your cause, how you offer choice instead of demanding obedience. He paused, and Shun saw the weight of his next words. The Council plans to activate a doomsday weapon. The void engine will destroy everything Hegemon Prime, your fleet, the freed species. They'd rather end the galaxy than lose control of it. We know, Sean said quietly. That's why we're here. To stop it. You can't. Dexfall insisted. The void engine draws power from the planet's core. It's protected by planetary shields, defense platforms, and the entire hegemony home fleet. Even with your numbers, you'll never reach it in time. Chun smiled not with arrogance, but with the quiet confidence of someone who'd spent 50,000 years preparing for this exact moment. Commander, we're not here to reach it. We're here to turn it off. And we're not doing it alone. She keyed a different channel. Admiral Caxter, are your people in position? Another screen materialized. The hegemony admiral who'd retreated from Zephyr Nebula looked gaunt, but his eyes held fierce determination. They are, Captain. 200 hegemony vessels have joined your cause. We've been quietly broadcasting the Truth Merquin's files, the Council's plans, everything. Half our fleet is ready to stand down. The other half, he grimaced, will have to be convinced. Archivist Valther, Chun continued, addressing a third screen. Can you access the Void Engine's control systems? The elderly Keshrin scholar nodded from deep within Hegemon Prime's archives. I'm in the command network now, Captain. But the Council has biological locks. Only their genetic signatures can deactivate the sequence once it starts. Then we'll have to work fast. Chun looked at the assembled fleet, human, alien, and defector alike. This isn't about conquest. It's not about revenge. Today, we show the galaxy that there's another way. That species can cooperate without domination. That strength doesn't require tyranny. She opened a galaxy-wide broadcast. People of the hegemony, citizens and slaves alike. This is Captain Sarah Chun of Earth. For 50,000 years, you've been told that order requires submission, that peace requires chains, that freedom is chaos. The fleet began its final approach to Hegemon Prime. The void engine's charging signature lit up the planet like a malignant star. Today, you'll see the truth. Humanity kneels to no one, not because we're superior, but because we believe no one should kneel. Not humans. Not Drell. Not Voss or Keldry, or even the hegemony species themselves. We're not here to replace your masters. We're here to break the concept of masters entirely. The hegemony loyalist fleet opened fire. The battle for Hegemon Prime began. Human ships with their adaptive shields absorbed the first barrage. The freed species is struck with guerrilla tactics learned in rebellion. Defector vessels sabotaged their former comrades' formations. It was chaos, but chaos with purpose. Chun's ship dove through the defensive grid, followed by a strike team of the fastest vessels. They raced toward the void engine's control spire while the battle raged above. "Velther," Chun called, "we're at the spire. Can you override the planetary shields?" Negative, the Council sealed them. But Captain, there's another way. The biological locks require Council members' genetic signatures. If you can capture just 3 of them, already ahead of you. Chun gestured to her boarding team. Torres, Nguyen, Okafor, you know what to do. The 3 human commanders led a lightning strike into the Grand Council chamber. The councilors, who'd spent millennia giving orders from safety, suddenly faced warriors who'd evolved to fight impossible odds. Vexthan, Raisha, and Drexel were subdued in minutes. "You'll never make us stop the engine." Vexthan roared, even as he was dragged to the control terminal. "We'd rather die than submit." Chun looked at him with something between pity and understanding. "That's the difference between us, Counselor. You're so afraid of losing control that you'd destroy everything. We've already lost everything 50,000 years ago, and we survived. Because adaptation beats domination. Every time." She forced his claw onto the terminal. Then Raisha's. Then Drexel. The void engine's charge began to decline. Slowly at first, then faster. Across the battlefield, hegemony ships began powering down. Crews mutinied. Officers defected. The truth spread like wildfire. Their council had been willing to annihilate them all rather than share power. When the engine finally went dormant, a strange silence fell over Hegemon Prime. Chun stood in the Grand Council chamber, surrounded by captured counselors and freed slaves, human warriors and defector soldiers. The holographic galaxy map, still, floated above the cracked table, but the red indicators of rebellion were turning blue. One by one, system after system choosing freedom. "What happens now?" Vexful asked quietly, entering the chamber. "You've won. The hegemony is broken. Will you claim the throne? Become the new masters?" Sarah Chun looked at Earth's blue-green symbol on her uniform. 50,000 years of isolation. 50,000 years of fighting, learning, adapting, all leading to this moment. "No," she said simply. "We're going to do something the galaxy hasn't seen in 50,000 years. We're going to leave. You, all of you, will decide what comes next. Form a council if you want. Build a democracy. Create a federation, or splinter into independent worlds. That's your choice to make. But without guidance, Risha protested weakly. You'll make mistakes. You'll struggle. Some systems will flourish. Others will fail. It'll be messy and chaotic and beautiful. Sean smiled. Just like Earth was. Just like any free society is. The hegemony kept you safe by keeping you stagnant. We're offering you something more valuable. The chance to grow. She turned to Velther. Archivist, make sure Merquan's files are distributed everywhere. Let everyone know the truth, that one person long ago believed the galaxy deserved better than perfect chains. That he hid us not to protect the hegemony from humanity, but to protect humanity's potential, to remind you all what freedom costs. As the human fleet prepared to depart, leaving behind weapons, technology, and knowledge, but taking no territory or tribute, Vexful asked one final question. Will you return? If we fail, if chaos truly does consume us, will Earth come back? Chun paused at the doorway of the chamber. Maybe, or maybe you'll surprise us. Maybe you'll build something better than the hegemony ever was. Maybe you'll prove that Merquan was right, that given freedom, life finds a way. She looked back at the shattered council, at the defectors and freed slaves standing together uncertainly. Humanity kneels to no one, but we don't demand you stand alone. Build alliances. Choose cooperation over conquest. And if you truly need us, she smiled, we'll be listening. The Prometheus lifted off from Hegemon Prime, followed by the human fleet. Behind them, the galaxy began its awkward, painful, hopeful first steps toward something new. In his archive, Velther played Merquan's final message one last time. Let them come back when we have forgotten how to fight. Let them show us what we've lost. You were right, old friend, Velther whispered. They showed us everything. And across 1,000,000 worlds, species that had been slaves began writing their own stories. The age of masters was ending. The age of choice had begun. Asterisk.